Hello everyone! Thank you for visiting our channel. Have you ever experienced such like stories? Emily and Daniel had been married for 7 years, both being 30 years old. Daniel was an ordinary employee in a logistics company, engaged in cargo transportation throughout the country. Daniel enjoyed his job and was known in the company as a hardworking and respected employee. Emily had her own small flower shop, which she had been involved in since before her marriage, and when she began dating Daniel, he supported her with the idea of starting her own business. At one point, Emily convinced Daniel to quit his job and make her store a joint family venture, but Daniel was not ready to give up his job. Today, Emily said, "Daniel, my parents are coming over. Let's all spend the evening together." Her husband nodded in agreement. He enjoyed Emily's parents' company. The evening passed very pleasantly. When everyone was having tea, Emily said, "Daniel, Mom, Dad, I have news. We're going to have a baby." Everyone looked at Emily in surprise, and her mother cried tears of joy. Daniel was more surprised than anyone. They had been trying to have a baby for several years, but nothing had worked. It was so pleasant and exciting. 9 months flew by like a day. Daniel was happy and literally carried his wife in his arms. He allowed her every whim, gave her gifts, and often surprised her unexpectedly. Soon, they had a baby girl. Emily agreed to name her Ashley, as her husband wished. Daniel adored his daughter. After work, he always hurried home to help his wife with motherly duties and give her some time to relax. Emily even managed to continue running her flower business without delegating management responsibilities to any of her employees. Daniel established a tradition for his wife. Every 6 months, he sent her to a pension where she could relax in nature, get enough sleep, and enjoy pleasant solitude. When Ashley turned 5, Emily became pregnant with their second child. Daniel was ecstatic with happiness. Over the years of unsuccessful attempts to have a baby, even before their first daughter, he had become very desperate and even had himself tested for infertility. However, the doctor assured him that everything was fine. Therefore, when Emily became pregnant again, he was overjoyed. For several years of unsuccessful attempts to have a child, which were before their daughter was born, he became very desperate. He even underwent infertility testing, but the doctor assured him that everything was fine. Therefore, when Emily told him the news and showed him the test with 2 stripes, Daniel was incredibly happy. "I hope it will be a boy," smiled his wife. "The main thing is that the child is healthy." Daniel hugged his wife tightly. "I want to relax, Daniel." Emily stroked her husband's hand. "Book me a vacation for next month, okay?" It was an unplanned trip to a boarding house, but Daniel, elated with happiness, was willing to do anything for his wife. Emily returned from her vacation with a rounded belly. Daniel worked in his office as usual when a man walked in. Daniel noted the stranger's excellent appearance and beautiful facial features. He was also drawn to the birthmark on the man's neck in the shape of a heart. "Good afternoon, Daniel," the man smiled, ready to discuss contract details. Daniel shook his hand. He rarely met with clients, mainly because the majority of them were in other cities. When James was about to leave, he suddenly asked a question. "Daniel, are you a family man?" "Yes, I have a wife and daughter." "Why do you ask?" "I have my reasons." The man smiled slyly and left. Despite this strange question, Daniel enjoyed working with James. He was an interesting conversationalist and a good leader. The day of the delivery was approaching. Emily was nervous, constantly losing her temper with her family and getting angry with Daniel for leaving a plate unwashed or any other trifle. Daniel endured it. He understood that it would soon be over and simply did what his wife asked him to do. One day, they had a quarrel over Daniel expressing his desire to be with Emily during childbirth. She refused and Daniel didn't understand why and continued to insist. They argued about it all evening. And at night, Emily woke up her husband and told him she was having contractions. Daniel was anticipating a new stage in life, their second child. They deliberately didn't find out the gender, deciding that it should be a surprise for them. They came up with both name options. If they have another daughter, they would call her Haley. But if it's a boy, they will name him Ryan. The next morning, his wife sent him a message with a photo and a caption. "Congratulations, we have a daughter." Daniel showed a photo of their eldest daughter Ashley to his friend Daniel, and they admired the little girl for a while. The next day, James called Daniel with a proposal to meet and discuss their work companies. They met at a cafe in a shopping center where Daniel was buying necessary items for his wife and newborn daughter. When he arrived at the meeting place, James was already waiting for him. "Hello, James." They shook hands. Daniel ordered coffee and took out a folder with documents and a laptop from his bag. "I see you're shopping," said James. "Yes, my wife gave birth 3 days ago." "I'm stocking up for them," replied Daniel. "I know," said James. Daniel was stunned. "What do you know?" "Know that your wife gave birth." James looked at Daniel with unwavering confidence. In that moment, James placed his phone in front of Daniel. On the screen was a message. "Congratulations, we have a daughter." And a photo, the same one Daniel had. "I don't understand. What is this? Why are you showing me this?" Daniel's heart was pounding out of his chest. Fear twisted his stomach, and he felt like he was going to pass out. "Daniel, we're both adults. You should understand what this means. I don't think Emily told you, and she won't be able to tell you. But I like you, and you need to know that this child is mine." Daniel stood up so abruptly that the chair he was sitting on fell with a thud. He grabbed his things and flew out of the cafe. He couldn't feel the ground beneath him and rushed to his car. His ears were still ringing, and there was a lump in his throat. No, he wouldn't ask Emily anything right now. He couldn't believe this was happening. After so many years of marriage, so much trust between him and his wife, the very idea of infidelity didn't even fit in his head. Gathering himself, Daniel decided that he wouldn't say anything to his wife for now. He would look at his daughter, maybe secretly do a DNA test, but he wouldn't accuse his beloved of cheating. The day of discharge arrived. Happy Daniel came to the maternity ward with flowers to pick up his wife. There, they handed him a sleeping baby. Daniel's heart sank at the thought that his long-awaited Haley wasn't really his. Upon returning home, Daniel began to undress his daughter from the outfit she was wrapped in at the hospital. Daniel looked at the features of the little human and desperately searched for something of himself in her. He saw that the little girl didn't look like him. When Daniel took off the hat from the small head and untied the swaddling clothes, Haley stretched out. And then Daniel saw the birthmark in the shape of a heart. "Emily," he called his wife. "Please tell me what this is." Emily hesitated and uncertainly replied, "My grandmother had the same thing. Maybe it's hereditary." But from Daniel's eyes, she saw that he didn't believe her. "Why are you lying to me?" He became enraged, flew up to his wife, and tightly squeezed her shoulders. His wife burst into tears from the unexpectedness, and after several direct questions, she told everything. How she met Dylan at the same boarding house where Daniel sent her to rest, how their relationship spun, and how it happened that she became pregnant with his child. Emily cried and said, when she learned about her pregnancy, her first thought was to have an abortion. She thought she couldn't deceive her husband like this and make him raise someone else's child. But it was then that Daniel, as if sensing, began to talk about the second baby. And Emily decided that it was a sign. The lover asked Emily for a divorce, begged her to leave with him and raise their common child together. But he wasn't ready to accept her first child, and that stopped Emily from divorcing Daniel. After listening to his wife, Daniel left the house, and the first person he called was James. They had a short conversation. Daniel said he would file for divorce himself. The eldest daughter would stay with him, and James could move Emily with her belongings to his home today. Several years after the divorce, Daniel and his daughter sold their apartment and moved to another city. Emily moved to live with James. Everything was going well for them, but when their daughter grew up a bit, his attitude began to change. The man constantly made remarks about her appearance. He said that she had let herself go completely and refused to listen to how difficult it was for her to take care of their daughter alone since James didn't help her. One day he left the family without any explanation because he was tired of everything. Emily cried a lot. She was left alone with a small child in her arms. She abandoned her flower shop, so she didn't have much means to survive. Asking for help from her first husband was useless. She had not been interested in Daniel's life and their elder daughter for these years, so it was foolish to hope for their kindness. The woman suddenly realized how much she had been mistaken in her choice. She had traded a peaceful life for a fleeting passion. And though this passion later turned into a family, it ultimately brought Emily no joy. She will never be as happy as she was in her first marriage. What do you think about this situation? Share your thoughts in the comments. And thank you for listening to the story until the end. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and be sure to like this video, as it will help us promote the channel. All the best.